because I believe when women are empowered, the world changes. And God knows that we've lived in society for so long where women have been disempowered. I believe that as part of DAREHuman, it's our job to break open the matrix, to break open the patriarchy, to break open the hustle culture that we all subscribe to, and start living from a more collaborative, compassionate place, which is what feminine energetics is all about.
2, 1, 0.
Hi, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I have with me today Susanne Goldstein. She's a change maker on a mission to elevate humanity. Susanne is the founder and CEO of DAREHuman, a highly thought after business coach, consultant, and strategist, and industry disrupting social entrepreneur, filmmaker, author, and creative visionary. Susanne has built an expansive, purpose-driven portfolio career, finding creative ways to use storytelling, business, and technology to help humans build a more just world. Some of the topics we talked about are: what is it like to lead like a woman? How not to be corrupted by power? Defining what success is, what success means for you, and finding inner peace. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hey, Susan, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
I was so happy to be here. It was so fun to meet you recently, and I'm so glad we're having a chance to chat now.
Yeah, we met at a mastermind in North Carolina, and it was a delight. Every time I heard you speak, I was like, oh, I like listening to her. She's so nice. And I'm very honored that you're here, and I think this is going to be a really beautiful conversation. Before we dive in, can you share a little bit about your background and how did you discover your passion?
I love this question. I've had a kind of a crazy background, so I'm going to give you the 2-minute version. My parents wanted me to be an engineer, and so I trained as a mechanical engineer, but I really wanted to be in the arts, because I believe that we can use the arts to change hearts and minds and make the world a better place. And I've always been that kind of person. But my family was very focused on me having a career where I knew I would be successful and that there would always be jobs for me. And I am not that kind of person at all. I do not seek certainty. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I have had this very multi-passionate career that started at the National Theatre of Great Britain, rejecting going into engineering, my parents' wish, and got a job by basically sitting in the lobby of the National Theatre's backstage in London for 8 straight days until someone would speak to me. And I was nice to everybody, and I was kind, and I was curious, and I just kept saying, will anybody talk to me? And I really want to work here. And there were no jobs, and this is pre-internet and pre-email. And befriended some of the women behind the desk in the backstage area. And on the 8th day, what I call my Hanukkah miracle, she said there was someone who's excited to talk to me. And I met with this gentleman, and he ran one of the 3 stages of the National Theatre, and he needed someone who knew engineering and knew theater. And it was just like my life suddenly came together, because I had gotten a 2nd degree while I was in university in theater and film, and that's really where I wanted my life to go. And so my life has been this beautiful meandering path of creating opportunities. I call it carrying a paintbrush, that you imagine everywhere you're going to go and anybody you want to talk to or meet or a door you want to open, you take out this imaginary bucket of paint and a paintbrush and you paint a door, and then you open that door and you create opportunities for lucky things to happen. And so I have been manifesting this way throughout my entire life and career. It took me into the film industry. I produced my first movie for Disney when I was 27 years old. I then left the film industry because I felt like the people I was around didn't have the kind of heart-centered, save the world kind of way that I was living my life. Got involved in the .com industry very early on as an architect. Thank you for my engineering degree. And ended up architecting first version websites and web products for some of the biggest companies in the world. Did that for a while, then got into social entrepreneurship, and taught at Harvard for a couple of years. I mean, it's just been this amazing career of following my bliss and following the ignition switch of my passion. And my passion has always been, how can I help humanity make the world a better place? And so everything about my career, including what I'm doing now, has been based on that beginning.
Amazing. And why did you paint it a new door for what you're doing right now?
How did I paint the latest door?
The latest door, how and why?
This is kind of a deep question.
Go deep or go home. No, I really I like deep conversation. I like heartfelt conversation.
I do too.
I know.
This one goes deep. So I was asked by a friend. So I've been a coach and a consultant since I left the film industry when I was 27. I've been a coach and a consultant. And I was asked by a friend, gosh, this is many years ago now, if I could consult to her diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting business. And I said, sure. And I ended up going in, doing some work with her, and then she asked me if I would be her CEO. And so I agreed to come inside for a while and to really build this practice. It was at the beginning of when people were really starting to talk about diversity and inclusion. And I was building this company for her, and then we had the 2016 election. And at that time, I was running this D&I company, and there was a president coming in who said all of these horrible things about people who were from diverse backgrounds. And I thought, how could this man get elected? Like, didn't make sense to me. And I asked her, I said, I'm this Ivy League educated white Jewish CEO of a D&I firm, and I know nothing about white rural Americans. And I feel like to understand this country and to really be in D&I need to understand everybody, not just the people that we like. And how do you feel about me going and exploring some red states? And she thought it was a great idea. So I crowdfunded about $45,000, hired a film crew, and went to the reddest county in all of Alabama, the reddest state in the U.S., the reddest county in the U.S. And I went there with the idea that I was going to, and I brought this film crew with me with this idea of just getting to know this population and kind of doing a listening tour. That was really what I was there for. But what I found was so incredibly different than the world I had been living in. I felt like it was part of my job and responsibility at that time to show other people and give voice to a group of people in this country, my country, that have been voiceless. And so I ended up quitting my job, embedding in this county on and off for almost 3 years. I started hosting adult exchange programs where people from Alabama would come to Boston and learn to walk in someone else's shoes, and people from Boston would go to Alabama to try to learn to walk in someone else's shoes. And there were parts of it that were amazing, and there were parts of it that were a complete disaster. People did not get along. There was not that much everybody says, oh, we're 80% the same. We're not. And it's not that I dislike people. Like, I had to go into pure radical acceptance, non-judgment, to be able to be in a place where I was called every name on the planet. People asked if they could touch my horns because they had never met a Jewish person before. It was an incredible experience. And after I finished doing this, I went back to Hollywood, where my roots had started. And I tried to set up this whole series I had shot as a documentary series. And I met with all the studios, and I got an agent, and I went to Netflix, and Netflix loved what we had done. Thought it was beautiful, thought the stories were interesting, thought the character development was great. But they said something that changed my life. They said, Susanne, this is great stuff, but we only want stuff on our platform that's going to be relevant in 10 years. And I literally burst out laughing. And they're like, why are you laughing? And I said, well, I really like your hopefulness, but this is the beginning of even worse divide in our country than we've ever seen before. This is not the end. Like, this isn't going to end anytime soon. This is getting worse and worse and worse. And it's not that one group is right and one group is wrong. It's that the division is so huge. on what we believe in. And what I realized at that time is that the people in the Democratic side, the blue side, were so entrenched in their belief that you can just kumbaya and everything will be okay. We just can all get along and the world's going to be better.
Everyone who does not suffer from discrimination or haven't felt like racism or anti-Semitism, like they are still in this like, oh, kumbaya, let's make peace. But this is, like you said, this is a deeper issue, and it's not very new. It's only a few thousand years old.
Exactly. And the thing about what I realized is I had, I've always lived in coastal cities. They tend to be more progressive. They tend to lean very far blue. And even though I am a blue leaning person, I'm much more of a centrist than leaning far left. And what I realized at the time is that a lot of the people I was friends with from these coastal cities were completely clueless to what was really going on in the world, that there was this entire middle part of the country and southern part of the country that they just did not know existed, and including in Hollywood. And I realized at that time that I had a different job to do. So I kind of let the project go. It was called Exchange Nation. You can actually go watch footage at exchangenation.tv. And I dropped the project and I opened and started this new company called DAREHuman, which is literally about waking up humanity, showing people all of the ins and outs and crevices that they don't know about inside themselves so that they could heal emotionally, so that we can create more inclusion, more peace, more getting along, and hopefully rewrite the ship of humanity, because we're complacent and we're just, the world is falling apart, and most people aren't watching. And so I teach programs and I help people really see what's actually happening in the world. And that's how I got doing what I'm doing now.
It's really powerful, and I think we need more people like you. I feel like most of us live in a bubble, including me. I'm sure there are a lot of things that I don't know, I don't even know. And it's good to have this a leader like you that is sharing this with the world. What is a dare human? How do you define it?
It's my company. It's a philosophy, honestly. It's a movement. It's also coaching and training and programs to help people elevate. I focus a lot on women because I believe when women are empowered, the world changes. And God knows that we've lived in society for so long where women have been disempowered. I believe that as part of Dare Human, it's our job to break open the matrix, to break open the patriarchy, to break open the hustle culture that we all subscribe to, and start living from a more collaborative, compassionate place, which is what feminine energetics is all about. It doesn't mean that it's lame and it's too soft. It means that it's fierce and feminine. And so the company is based around a philosophy. We call it the Tao of Dare Human because the Tao Te Ching influenced my life so greatly. Understanding that it is in the giving that we truly receive. It is in the service to others that we have our biggest success. And so the model of change that we work on, we call the Tao of Dare Human, and it's based on 4 archetypes. So the archetypes stand for know yourself, live on purpose, get shit done and make money, and be the change you want to see in the world. So the archetypes are the alchemist. The alchemist is the one who most of humanity needs to go through alchemy. They're not aware of their own emotions. They're still in reactive stage of life instead of responsive stage of life. This is about personal power. It's about learning to set boundaries, feeling the empowered voice, the balance of masculine and feminine energetics. All of that happens in the alchemist part of our model of change. And if you don't do that, you can't be a force for good. So all of Dare Human is all about our belief, our true belief that every single one of the 8 billion people on the planet can be a force for good. But first, they need to be a force for good in their own life. And so this model teaches you how to do that. And this first piece of it, the alchemy piece, is the most crucial. Once you know yourself, or at least at various levels of knowing yourself, the next archetype is called the artist. And the artist is all about living your purpose and your passion. So it's about finding your true north, the thing that lights you up and bounces you out of bed every day, that passion that will drive you through the days where things are hard, but you know you can handle it, right? So that piece of it is so critical, because if people tap in to the one thing that they really care about, we can change the world. They just need to tap into their one thing, and you don't need to care about the thing I care about. Like if you want to build a bench in your local neighborhood because there's no place to rest for the older adults who are walking around all the time, that can be your one thing. But if you want to save every manatee on the planet, that can also be your one thing. Everybody gets to have one.
I like both goals.
And you can have as many as you want. What we're trying to do is activate people to care. And the way you care is to find the thing that you're passionate about. And you don't have to care about everything. You just need to care about the things that matter to you. And then the next piece of it is learning how to get shit done and make money, because all of us need money to live. Until we get to a post-money society, we still need that energetic exchange that money allows us to do. It is the energy of commitment, right? And we make that money by learning how to get shit done in our purpose-driven life. And so if you can live on purpose and make money at the same time, we stop having the conflict between what I do for life and what I do for a living. And then the last archetype we call the advocate, and that is the one that's about being the change you want to see in the world. Is if you can really know yourself and you can really live your purpose, and if you can get shit done and make money, and you can go out and be that change, the ripple effect you can create just by being you is enormous. And so that's what we teach. And it's a really powerful model. It's a really powerful method. And we're hoping to create a movement out of it.
I'm sure it's gonna be. I myself, like I recognize myself within all the archetypes. The get shit done one, though, is a big block of mine. Sometimes I don't. Do you have any advice for me?
I have like 5 programs for you, and I have plenty of advice. The thing about you feel like, to me, a woman, I've met you in person, a woman who's very much in her feminine, very much in her power, but also has a wounded feminine part, as we all do, and probably has a wounded masculine part, as we all do. We all have masculine and feminine energetics inside us, and there's the healthy side of all energy, and there's the lack of healthy side of all energy. And the thing about getting shit done that's so hard for people who it's not natural to is that it's not knowing the next step to take. And so I never recommend doing things in order. I always recommend planning things backwards. So you determine where you want to be. You say, this is who I want to be next, or this is what I want to do, or this is something I want to create, or this is a book I want to write. And you put in your vision the end product. And then you say to yourself, what's the thing I have to do right before it's an end product? Well, maybe if it's a book, you have to get it printed. So now one of my big rocks for making sure I get this book done, maybe it's rock number 20, is get the book printed. And that rock has lots of small rocks and medium rocks and teensy tiny rocks that are part of getting that big rock completed. And what's the step before getting it printed? Maybe big rock 19 is approving of the manuscript. So there's lots of little pieces that go with approving the manuscript. It might be having someone copy edit it for you, making sure the layout is okay, picking the cover, right? All of the things you have to do to make the manuscript ready to go to print. So maybe that's big rock 19. And then you take a step further back. What has to happen? What's big rock 18? Oh, I need to finish writing it. Okay, what is it going to take to finish writing it? So there are lots of parts of writing the book that need to be planned out. So when you work from the end result to the current moment, which is I want to write a book, now what? Instead of going like, what's my first step? I better figure all of the steps out at once. We only take one step at a time and we planned it backwards so that we can just follow the breadcrumbs that we left for ourselves of how to get things done.
I'm still stuck on the wounded feminine, wounded masculine. And I'm thinking, because I'm like, I have a wounded feminine and a wounded masculine, which is probably true.
We all do. You're not unique.
Good. This is the only time I don't want to be unique in, because because I don't want to be like, like a hurt person that have problems like all of us. If I have all the steps, 1 to 20, and I'm still run by wounded feminine or wounded masculine, then I'll get to the cover and it will take me a year to decide on what to put on it. So how do we get to the root cause? Because I think, especially with myself, like I'm a genius at planning things, at telling people how to plan things, at breaking down things to steps. I'm great at like organizing parties, for example. But when it comes to things that are about fulfilling my passion, fulfilling like self-fulfillment, I guess I'm still run by that wounded feminine, masculine, or wounded child, whatever it is. So how do we address that? How do we boost that or heal that?
Yeah, I think the first part is starting to recognize the different parts of us and which parts have bought into the myth that is modern society. So, in our modern society, women have had to act like men to be successful. So, there's a long period of time where women couldn't even get a credit card without her husband co signing. There was a time women couldn't even get mortgages. There was a time where women didn't have the right to vote, right? So when we finally were let into the workforce, which was during World War II in this country, they needed us to work as part of the war effort. And as soon as the war was over and the soldiers came back, we were kicked back into the households, right? So all of our power and potency in the working world was taken away. And we had to then become housemakers again. And fine. But eventually women were like, hey, you know what? I can do more. I can be more. And so they started applying to law school or medical school or getting into industry or getting into corporate businesses and finances and stuff like that. But in order to do that, they had to act like a guy, right? So men wear ties to work. So women started wearing what's called a Betty business bow, a little tie. They can tie right here because if a guy needs to wear something around his neck, I need to wear something around my neck. If a guy is getting stuff done through competition, I'm going to start being competitive. If the way that you work that you can be successful in our current paradigm of work is to drive really hard, hustle really hard, sell really hard, promote yourself really hard, do all this stuff, it is antithetical to who women are. So naturally, we have masculine and feminine dynamics inside us. Every woman, every man. Women tend to have more feminine, less masculine. Men tend to have more masculine, less feminine. But we all need both. It's why the yin and the yang symbols fit together beautifully. We need both to make a whole.
One of my favorite symbols of all. Remember at Mavericks, that's the card I pulled.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Remember that's why I stood up and spoke because they were asking about the card and there was a yin yang symbol and I spoke about it and it says out of the mess comes elegant order, which was perfect for me at that moment. And I loved it. I do a lot of work actually around balancing feminine, masculine. Did a lot of work on myself, so I know it firsthand. But you say that you still saw a wounded feminine, wounded masculine. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So if the strong feminine is not allowed to flourish in contemporary society, there are parts of us that are still trying to be seen. So if there's, and I'm not saying this about you, I'm saying this about women in general, or humans in general, a wounded part of the feminine is the needy part. A strong, fierce femme is not needy. In fact, she's leaned back in her power and she's like, you want this? You got to come after me. Right? But so many of us have been brought up in a society where we don't necessarily know how it runs. So we're like, hey, wait, that guy didn't call me back. Let me grab it. Let me try to force it. Let me try to control it, because that's the behavior we've learned. But it doesn't fit with us. And so there's all these wounded parts that get left out. The same happens with the wounded masculine. The wounded masculine shows up in toxicity, in nastiness, in being inappropriate in how we speak to each other, in the ability to get shit done. The powerful feminine has self-worth, high self-worth and high self-confidence. So self-worth is knowing you're lovable even though there's no one telling you there that you're loved. The self-confident is I can figure it out even though I've never done it before.
So I have those traits too. I just feel like as human beings, depends on what we're going through in life. Like some days we can show up really powerful, and some days we can show up less. Is there a way to make it more consistent, where you're connecting to your power more, either your feminine or masculine power?
Yeah, you heal. You got to do the healing work, right? So, one of the biggest teachers in my life was some work that Tony Robbins does called the 6 Human Needs. And when you get really clear, I would Google it if you don't know it, 6 Human Needs by Tony Robbins. And whether you like Tony or not doesn't matter. It's such brilliant teaching. And it's the work that he did based on Maslow's work. And it's really about whether we're driven by our needs for certainty and significance, or we're driven by our need for uncertainty and love and connection, or growth or contribution. Those are the 6. And what happens is when we are in a position where we need to get shit done and we're not, it may be the wounded maiden, the wounded feminine, saying, gosh, I just want someone else to do this for me. I don't want to have to do it myself. I shouldn't have to. I'm so brilliant. I'm so amazing. I shouldn't have to sit down and do the work. That's wounded feminine. I'm not saying that's you. That's just wounding. We all need to figure out how to step into our masculine and get shit done.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I've done so many programs from Tony Robbins. I actually done all his programs. I really love his teaching.
He's smart.
So yeah, I've done everything in Tony Robbins. And sometimes you know things, but then life hits and you keep forgetting, and you need more reminders. I think this podcast is a really good reminders for a lot of listeners to remember that we do need to heal. To remember that no matter what happens in our lives, we take responsibility, we own it, we heal. Heal yourself, love yourself, take care of yourself. And it needs to be a mantra, an everyday mantra. Love yourself, heal yourself, you're safe, you're good enough. Love yourself, heal yourself, you're safe, you're good enough. Because if we'll brainwash ourselves every day that we are loved, we belong, and we're safe, we won't have to have, nobody will have to feel the need to fight with anybody else, or be less than, or be more than, or just be and be loved, and connect to spirit and expansion, and give your all, because you, like you said, when you give, you receive so much. Give your all without giving up on yourself.
Yeah, it's a good boundary. I think the challenge is that most people don't stop to ask themselves what they're feeling because their feelings are too painful. And so it's very easy for people to just go with the flow, right? So the reason so many women are leaving corporate America is because they are so burnt out from playing the masculine energy hustle game. And meanwhile, there's all of this brain drain happening at these big companies, and women are starting their own businesses in droves because they're like, you know what? I don't want to work that way anymore. I want to work in a way that's much more natural for me, that I can be in my creativity, my compassion, my big heart, my desire to make this world better. And yeah, I'm gonna have to step into my masculine every now and again and get some shit done and make some money. But the rest of the Dare Human movement, it is all feminine energy. Knowing yourself is feminine energy. Living your purpose is feminine energy. Getting shit done is masculine energy. Making money, the activities of making money are masculine energy, but receiving the money is feminine energy. Being the change you want to see in the world, that's feminine energy. It's a lot of feminine energy, but we live in a very masculine energy world. So we got to recode ourselves.
Yes. What does it look like to lead like a woman?
Ah, it's very different. It's very different. It's about power, not force. It's about collaboration, not competition. It's about reaching back and helping others rise, as opposed to when someone's getting close to near where you are, smacking them on the top of the head so they'll fall. It's about understanding that life and work are meant to be in harmony, not in balance. There's no such thing as balance, if you ask me. Balance means that you have different things that you're trying to trade off time and attention for. Harmony is when they work together, right? There's so many ways that we can be in our influence and impact as opposed to in our demandingness, in our striving for money being the only thing that matters, right? We get to rewrite all the rules.
That's amazing. Can you give me an example from a client, for example, that changed and switched from being more masculine driven to being more feminine driven?
Oh gosh, so many. Let me give an example a lot of people can relate to. I'll give one that's not work, and then if you want, I can give one that is work. So a lot of the women I work with, they have the same full-on, badass, control-oriented way of working that they do everything in life. So, and many of them are single, either divorced or never married. And so what happens is they go on a date with a guy, and they're like, in their heads, they're going through their mental checklist, and they're like, he fits this, he fits this, he fits this, they fit this. They haven't even decided if they like the guy. They've just decided that he fits all the things. And by the time the guy has dropped them off at the house and the exhaust is still in the air, they have picked up their phone and said, you know what, I had a really good time. When can I see you again?
Oh, wow.
That is pure masculine energy. They're driving the situation. They're trying to control it. They're saying, I like you. When can I see you again? They haven't just thought about, do I like this person? Did they make me feel good? Did I feel sexy and beautiful? They didn't ask any of those questions. They just saw someone who on paper made sense, right? So they're trying to force it to work. As opposed to going on a date, being present, not worrying about if this is the one or the one you're going to marry or the one you're going to have 5 more dates with. It's being present in the moment and actually asking yourself the question, am I having fun? Am I enjoying this conversation? Am I being present? Is this making me feel like, oh, I can't wait to do this again? And then getting home that night and being in joy of the, I can't wait to do this again, and being okay if the guy calls again and if he doesn't call again.
Nice. Wow.
Right? Most women are so worried.
Yes, no, I totally agree with you. Most women that are driven with their masculine, this is exactly why they don't have relationships. Exactly why. But if somebody's listening, this is what you do, and you're willing to open up and take it in, and maybe rewind and listen to what Susanne just said a few more times on repeat, and then implement that, then your relationship life is going to change. I promise you.
And this is why, honestly, I have a side hustle business that I'm a dating coach. Because so many of the women who come through my world cannot find the guy because they're looking for perfection, and they come at it with the same judgment and discernment that they bring to work. Like, should I do this deal at work? Gets translated on, should I do this deal with this guy and how can I make it happen?
Yeah, dating is not a business deal. It's a matter of the heart. And if you're not present and not in your heart, it's not going to work. It might work if both of you are very left brain and this is just going to be a business deal, but I don't see it long lasting or actually loving and beautiful.
Right. And so that's an example of a change that many of my clients have gone through on a personal level. But I have so many other stories. I could tell billions of them.
Yeah, I'm sure. But what does it look like in the workforce when a woman is leading compared to a man?
I'll give you an example that happens a lot. Women are often held to different standards than men, even though men don't believe that that's true. And the reason is because what got a woman to here is not going to get her to here. What she did to get from where she started her career to the level of success that she's at is that she acted like a guy. And she competed and she scrambled and she clawed and she did all the things she needed to do to work her way up to a certain level of success. But once she gets to that level, it's not that women aren't allowed up above. It's that the rules for getting up above are different. Like, here's what most of my clients hear. We think you're really capable and you're an amazing individual contributor, but the problem is that you're not that likable. People don't like working for you, right? I would say 90% of my clients hear this, and they hear it because what they've had to embody to get to a certain level of success is now being held against them. Whereas guys who have used the same techniques to get to there, they're now invited to the golf game where a lot of decisions are getting made. They're invited to the sporting event where a lot of decisions are getting made, right? They are being included where women are now being excluded because, we don't like you that much. You know why? Because you don't act like the nice women who are just like willing to do whatever we want.
How do you solve that?
It's tough. It's really tough. What I do with my clients is that I work with women who are at that cusp or just below that cusp to learn how to lead like a woman within the organization. Many of them actually have gotten to the point where they don't even like people that much because they've had so much negative feedback from people that they're just like, screw it, I'm just going to do my job. So it's helping them re-fall in love with humanity.
Wow.
So that once they re-fall in love with humanity, they can start leading themselves and the people around them differently, and then people love them. And there's such a huge transformation, and sometimes they need to leave the company to go reestablish themselves as a new person at a different company. But there are times where they can actually work their way back into a leadership position, and then we get to start to change the organization from the inside out. It's super hard to do from the outside.
So that woman had this internal shift, understanding she needs to lead like a woman. I still didn't understand what leading like a woman means and what she does completely different. Is she just kinder and more loving? Does she respect people more?
Her leadership style is not about command and control. Her leadership style is about collaboration, compromise, compassion. Her leadership style isn't like, hey, I had to work this hard to get here, so you should have to work this hard to get here,
Okay.
right? She starts leading differently. She leads by example. So she shows what it's like to have a life and work at the same time. She leads meetings differently from a more collaborative standpoint as opposed to a command and control standpoint. She does reviews differently. Whereas a lot of men will say, I'm doing a 360 review, and they'll make a few phone calls and they'll like, what do you think of so-and-so? What do you think of so-and-so? And then they'll take that feedback, they'll put it through their own filter, and they'll bring it back to the woman and say, this person doesn't like you, that person doesn't like you, and this person, they think that you're good at your job, but you're kind of hard to get along with. That's not a real kind of review, whereas women will actually do the work to get to know what the challenges are of the people who work for her. When you lead like a woman, you're actually trying to help someone rise up as opposed to figuring out every reason not to allow them to rise up.
I think the world should be led by women, for reals.
I do too.
Like there'll be so much, like less wars, more love, more care, more kindness. I mean, I know that men are capable for that, but in our world they don't demonstrate it. I mean, especially because a lot of the people that get into the top level positions in our world have some kind of a narcissism, or they're very selfish.
Well, power is corrupting, right?
Yeah, power is corrupting for sure. Yeah, I mean, you see people that get into positions of power and they change. I mean, some people say that power or money is like a magnifying glass to who you are. If you were a mean person when you were didn't have much money, but you really didn't show it. The moment you have a lot of it, it magnifies. But I also understand that it corrupts even good people. How do we not corrupt ourselves? I guess we need to just know who we are, connect to love and light, and be conscious, and be on our tippy toes, because the ego is very deceiving.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of it is they say that doing emotional growth, personal growth work, asking yourself these hard questions, facing the parts of your personality you're not very proud of, that work is 10 times more energy consuming than physical labor. And so we also need a group of people who are willing to go through the pain. I had a client once, every single day in our audio program where we connect in between calls. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. And I was like, if you keep telling yourself it's hard, the only thing you're going to receive back is it's hard. But I believe in our what I call the zero balanced body. So I teach a lot of tools because I believe if people have tools, they can install them in their preconscious layer of their mind and they can pull them out when they need them. And for those of you who can't see me, I've got my hands together like in a prayer position. And one of these hands represents negative charge and one represents a positive charge. And we know what happens when a negative charge and a positive charge come together. They connect and they stick together because it's like magnets, right? But if one of these is your positive charged hand and you give away positive energy, meaning I'm pushing out towards other people, positive energy, the only thing that my body currently has a void for that it can draw in to bring me back to zero is positive energy. But the opposite is also true. If I give out negative energy by putting my right hand forward and I'm being mean, I'm being demanding, I'm doing all this stuff, the only thing I have a void for to draw back into me to bring back to zero balance is negative energy. And so what we give out is what we receive is absolutely true. It's true in the quantum, it's true in the 3D, it's true everywhere. But people don't realize this. They don't realize that they get what they give. And so if you're constantly saying to the universe, to yourself, it's hard, all you're going to get back is hard.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
You mentioned the quantum, and in your on your website there is a mention about a quantum leap. What is a quantum leap, and how can we quantum leap?
So a quantum leap in physics is when an electron that goes around the nucleus literally jumps from one energetic state to the next. So if there's different potential fields that an electron can exist in, and it's in, let's say, n equals 1, it can literally, anytime it wants, jump to n equals 2. It doesn't go from n equals 1 to n equals 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. It doesn't travel to a new state. It literally leaps to a new state. So that's what a quantum leap literally means. But what it means for us is that when we decide in our own journey that there's a new state we want to reach, and we decide what that is and we visualize it and we say to ourselves, that's who I'm going to be next. Because it's about who you are, not what you do, that matters. And if you decide you're going to up level to be a new who, it can happen as soon as the decision is made if you know how to actually transform yourself. So I actually teach a methodology. I've been upgrading myself like software since I was 27 years old. It's as if like you upgrade your phone, you download new upgrades. Well, I upgrade my mind, and I've been doing this for decades, and I give myself themes. And so my theme this month, it literally, I make myself wallpaper on my phone. It says expansion is present in every moment. So my reminder this whole month is like, this could be a moment to expand. While I'm on this podcast interview with Orion, this is a moment for me to expand. That's my theme. And if I'm not living the theme and I'm closing myself down and I'm imagining, oh God, I've got this podcast to do and I don't know if it's going to do anything for me. Geez, like, well, I'm just giving away. If I had that attitude, that's not an expansion. The expansion is what is the possibility and who can I become at the end of this interview? What growth am I looking to have? What amazing change can I invoke in a month or a year? And so it's about deciding who you want to be and then living as if it's true already.
That's amazing. Uh, when I did Date with Destiny, I wrote my relationship vision, and we had to write who do I want, but the most important thing was who do I need to become to attract that person. And that was a very difficult day for me because I figured out that I need to be kinder, I need to be more loving, I need to be more feminine. What type of person am I going to be? I never thought about those things. Like, who do I need to become for that dream person of mine? So I wrote it down, and 48 hours after I wrote it down and also prayed and had a breakthrough, and a very cathartic experience at 1 a.m. in front of a little waterfall at the hotel. 48 hours later, I met Stefan, and he proposed to me 9 days later in a hot air balloon in Vegas. And I said no.
What?
Yes, yes, yes. That was for sure a quantum leap. I want to do it again. I think a quantum leap happens also, like there is some more to this equation. I think surrendering to your higher self or higher power is a big deal. It's a big part of it.
Or even connecting to your higher self, which most people don't even know what that is.
Right.
I'm a true believer that we're a spiritual being having a human experience. I literally call this the meat suit because we're just embodying it for a while. And, a lot of people are very attached to this lifetime. And therefore, they feel like the things that happen to them in this lifetime are extremely meaningful. And for me, this journey in this lifetime, in this body, is just the expansion of whatever I'm supposed to know for whatever's next. And if we can constantly have a learner's mind, an open mind, a way of thinking about our life as a long experience as opposed to a short journey, that we can think of ourselves. Michael Bernard Beckwith, one of my favorites, he always says, we're citizens of eternity, not citizens of time.
Mm, yes.
So we step into this lifetime in what he calls the parentheses in time. And that's the 70, 80, 90 years that you're in this vessel.
Yes, it's so funny. This morning, I don't know, I woke up really irritated. Everything irritated me. Even the way that, the hot chocolate was, like every little thing was irritating. And then I stopped. I was like, Orion, take yourself 10 years from now and look back at this moment. How significant is this irritation? I was like, okay, it's not significant. Calm down. And then I got irritated again, and I had to remind myself, Orion, 10 years from now, look back at this moment. It's like, okay, okay, Orion, I got it. I have a lot of conversations with myself, as you can see. And actually
Best way to grow.
I do every in meditation sometimes I hear a voice that say, love yourself, except like what I just mentioned, like I hear that almost like my guides or my higher self. It's just a reminder. We keep forgetting who we are. We keep forgetting how huge we are. We keep forgetting that we are a part of eternity. We keep forgetting. We get caught up in this moment, in the 3D reality, which is great. Our soul came here to experience 3D realities and also to have like a soul correction and expand. I like that. I like that expansion, expanding, because expansion is wonderful. Like Tony Robbins says, if you don't grow, you die. So we every day we want to expand. Every day we want to ask tough questions and get a little bit better. And sometimes it's two step forward and one step backwards, and that's totally fine as long as we keep going forward and we never give up on ourselves.
As I was going to say, most people would meet me and they have no idea what my life has been like. But I tried to take my life twice. I had PTSD for 35 years and from some really horrible experiences that happened to me. I've dealt with chronic pain since I was 16. And I like to show people that you can completely change who you are. You can do it. It's a choice. And to go on the journey is not for the lighthearted. Waking up in general is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life
It's terrible.
and the most worthwhile.
Yes. It's like Neo in the Matrix when he gets disconnected and everything is so like terrible and gray, and he's in this spaceship, whatever it is. It's not as beautiful as the Matrix. Sometimes I, I think, oh my God, I wish I was just ignorant and just live my life in like very oblivious to everything. But no, actually, I don't. I like knowing more. I like being more, and sometimes it's hard because it's hard to find people that get you, and it's still okay because you will find the people that gets you, and you expand and you elevate, and sometimes there's the gap in between to reach out to more people that are expanded and elevated that did the work. It's not that like I'm better than anybody else, but I freaking did and do the work every freaking day religiously.
Yeah. And that's what it takes.
Yeah, that's what it takes. It's incredible that you overcame what you overcame. I don't know what was the situation, and I'm sure it was excruciating. But it's almost like you like you got the diamond out of the melting pot. You know, the is that no, that's not the right analogy. But you know what? Like out of the coal, like now you're shining your light as a diamond. That's better.
Yeah. The pressure definitely made a diamond out of me.
Yes, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous, and I guess that's why I was so gravitated toward you, because I felt your energy and I felt your light, and it's usually the people that suffer a lot and overcome a lot that have this like very magnetic personality, and it's because they worked on themselves. It's because they are holding on to their light. It's because they never gave up, and we all can do it if we just want to. We just have the desire, and if you don't have the desire, you can pray for the desire.
That's right.
What are your three top tips to living a stellar life?
Wow. I guess it's deciding what stellar means to you. That's a really important thing. Like people constantly crave success that they haven't defined. So like, I'll be happy when, but they haven't defined what happy when means, right? So deciding what success looks like, what happiness, what living that way is for you. For me, it was inner peace. I had it on my list of things I wanted to do before I died list. I have had this list since I was a kid, like jump out of a plane and da 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 da. And one of them was make get to inner peace. And it took decades, but I knew for myself that setting that as an intention of something I wanted to achieve was the thing that's going to get me there. You don't achieve the things you don't go for. So I would say step one is knowing what you want that your life to look like, to be stellar. Become the person who could live that life,
Nice.
right? Become that person, the who. And maybe the third is celebrate and have gratitude every step of the way, as opposed to just saying, I'll be grateful when I'm there.
Nice. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Wow, wow, wow. Beautiful, beautiful. That's amazing. So, How can people get work with you, participate in your 5 programs, learn from you, all that good stuff? Get you as a speaker, hire you as a speaker.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of speaking now, so that's super fun. The best way to find me is on Instagram, which is follow Susanne. So it's follow, FOLLOW, and then my name, which is SUSANNE. That's probably the best way to find me. And then from there, you can.
It's a perfect embedded command for a title. Just do it.
I wish that I had done it purposefully, but when Twitter first started, my name has, I think, 16 characters and you can only have 15. And so I had to come up with something besides my full name. Now you can have longer names, but that's how it got started. And now I'm Follow Susanne everywhere. Follow Susanne on Facebook, follow Susanne on TikTok, follow Susanne on Twitter, follow Susanne everywhere.
I think it's brilliant. Genius.
Yeah, so that's the best way. And then from there, you can always get to my link tree and find out different programs I have running or join my community. I have an online community for entrepreneurs and I have an online community for change makers. So 2 different spaces. I have lots of free programs. I do free trainings every Monday in my community called Pow Her. So it's a community for women. And I do free trainings in there every Monday. And if you're an executive woman looking for the transformation of a lifetime so that you can have the life, the job, the career that you want and not give up your career aspirations for all of the other stuff, come find me about my Lead Like a Woman program. It is literally the piece of work that is going to change my life and the world around me. I'm so proud of this work. So that would be a good way too. And if you're looking for a speaker, I speak on a lot of different topics, but specifically around what I call inconvenient leadership, which is how do you lead yourself to be inconvenienced in this lifetime so we can make the world better. And also a lot about masculine and feminine dynamics and energetics so that men can become allies for the work that we do.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you, Susanne, for leading like a woman, for teaching us what it means to lead like a woman.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you're just awesome. I really like you. You're amazing. It was wonderful meeting you in person. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me and with our listeners. Highly appreciate it. You rock. Thanks.
Thank you. Mwah. So much fun.
And thank you, listeners. Remember to decide what stellar means to you. You gotta define your success. Become the person who can live that life that you really, really dream of. Celebrate and have gratitude for everything that you are and everywhere that you are and everything that you have or don't have. Just be in gratitude and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.